For the Senate, Ogamba committed to engaging with the Dons Union in a bid to solve the impasse, even as the courts termed the strike as illegal and unprotected. The lecturers, for the second time in as many months, have boycotted duty, citing failure by the Ministries of Labour and Education to honour their part in the return-to-work formula signed on the 26th of September. However, with the Dons demanding the implementation of the 7 to 10 salary and an additional 4% annual increment, Education CS Migos Ogamba now says the impasse has been brought about by a difference in figures by the two ministries and the union.
In terms of the return-to-work formula, the challenge that is there with WASU and with us, we agreed on a 7% and 10% increment. But then that 7% and 10% increment had to be financed. You have to do the actual calculation to come up with a figure that supports the 7% and the 10% increment vis-a-vis the number of years that we have to do that. But when that simulation was done, the figure that the government has against the figure that WASU has differs by almost 5 billion.
The Education CS further admitted to shortage of funds, attributing the strain to the withdrawn 2024 finance bill.
There is a general deficit of the budget against what is required, and I think it's just in every ministry. And because of what has been happening relating to, especially this year with the finance bill, we had challenges in ensuring that we meet the obligations that we have. Because when we calculate with the 7%, 10% and the 4% annual increment, it comes 4.3 billion. When we put in the figure of 9 billion, the increment moves from 7% or 10% to a different figure, to a different percentage. But that's now a question of just doing the workings to find out a middle ground and agree that this is the actual figure.
His sentiments came even as the Employment and Labour Relations Court declared the ongoing lecturers' strike as unprotected and called on its officials to return to the negotiations table. Justice Agnes Nzwe, in her ruling, ordered the union officials not to incite or call on union members to participate in a strike that is unprotected. WASU and all interested parties have been granted 14 days to file a response on the matter. The case will be mentioned on November 28, 2024. The University Dons have been on strike since yesterday after the union's Secretary General called for industrial action over what he termed as failure by the Education and Labour Ministries to implement the 7 to 10 salary increment as per the return-to-work formula signed last month.
Midnight, with 1 minute, down your tools. No teaching, physical, no online teaching, no marking, no invigilation, down your tools until you get your 7 to 10% plus automatic annual increment.
WASU officials and Education CS Migos Ogamba held a series of meetings today in a bid to solve the impasse and see to it that the University Dons resume duty. Now, as the cost of living continues to rise, many Kenyans are finding it harder to make ends meet. A recent High Court ruling upholding the new deductions, including a housing levy and health insurance tax, means employees will see a significant cut in their take-home pay. Our reporter Alan Owino takes us to Mombasa and Nairobi, where residents like Meshach Awor are feeling the pinch and adjusting their daily budgets just to get by.
Meshach Awor, a resident of Mombasa, feels the strain of rising living costs. At a local shop, he buys a loaf of bread and a few pieces of cassava, not just for lunch but with plans to save part of it for dinner. Every purchase is a small calculation, a way to stretch his budget just a little further. In these challenging times, even the simplest meal requires careful planning.
Budget yangu ya nyumba kama 5,000 kwa mwezi kwa chakula tu, lakini sasa inabidi niende chini more than a half of it kama 2,000. Kwa sababu gani? Ile ambavyo wametufinya kuchukua hiyo kama housing levy zimetolewa, na ndio pesa ambayo ilikuwa inatusaidia sisi. 500 ni pesa nyingi sana kwa mwananchi wa Kenya kwa sasa hivi. Pesa ni ile ile, mshahara uongezeki, lakini mahitaji ya serikali kwangu mimi yameongezeka. Housing levy imeongezeka na kato mambo mengine pia na bado yanaongezeka. They don't care whether this salary is going up or is going down. What they care is about their taxes, how they'll tax me.
Meshach worries he'll have to dig deeper into his pockets following the implementation of the housing levy and shift deductions, which he says will cut his disposable income by nearly 3,000 shillings.
Ukisema unanikata hiyo 1,500 na hii SHA tena 1,500, hiyo na 3,000 naweza lipa rent hiyo kwa mwezi, naweza nunua chakula, naweza lipia mtoto wangu school fees pia, lakini inabidi sasa nisifanye hayo mambo.
Triza Kimani, Managing Director at Nani Employee Leasing, says the new deductions are impacting more than just individual workers. She notes that many of her clients are considering layoffs to manage the rising cost of doing business.
The amount of money the client has to pay, you have to add all this statutory deduction. Then you tell that client they also to pay you your administration fee. Then now the cost of business becomes very high. The unfortunate thing is that employers would want maybe to match, you know, for your workers to remain earning the same amount. But now again, the business is not doing well. So that particular worker has to do the same work with the same amount of money in terms of gross, but less take home. Yeah.
As part of the recent changes, workers now contribute 2,160 shillings monthly to NSSF, up from 200 shillings. Salaried Kenyans will also see 2.75% of their pay go towards SHIF and 1.5% towards the housing levy. And with the Kenya Revenue Authority now requiring housing levy deductions to be remitted by the 9th of every month, Triza believes a solution is needed to ease the burden on employers.
I think the governments need to consider removing the obligation of paying statutory from an employer and require the employee to pay, so that they take, because you see, like now, if I don't pay the statutory, I am given, legally, I'm held accountable and I'm penalized for not submitting the statutory. And sometimes the employee doesn't understand that. They think you are the one taking the money and keeping it in your company. So maybe one of the way maybe to allow the employee process where the money goes is the government to consider removing that obligation from the employer and ask the employee to pay for themselves directly to the government.
Despite the challenges, both Meshach and Triza remain hopeful. Meshach is finding new ways to make each shilling count. Meanwhile, Triza believes that open dialogue between employees, employers and policymakers could lead to a better solution for all. Alan Wino for K24.
Indeed, it is a sad state of affairs. Moving forward to matters health now, and a month after the official launch of the Social Health Insurance Fund, the Ministry of Health is still on the run to ensure smooth operations. According to the head of public service, Felix Koskei, all employees who worked under NHIF have been assured of their jobs, and those that will remain will be transferred to other government parastatals to ensure that no one is affected. He further urged hospitals that are yet to register under the new fund to do so to enable them continue offering services to Kenyans.
There have been a bit of tension between by the members of the defunct NHIF, the staff that were working with NHIF. So, but we have given them very clear assurance that no one will lose their job. SHA, as we speak, we have only one staff in the name of acting CEO. So the entire staff complement of SHA has not been filled. And the people who will be given priority and the people who deserve first priority are NHIF staff. Since SHA is highly digitized, SHA may take slightly less numbers than NHIF. And that is why, as government, we say we are going to run through all the staff through what we call suitability test once SRC has approved the salary structure. So we'll run through the suitability test, fill the positions, and those perhaps who don't manage to be onboarded will be deployed to institutions of government, to ministries, to other parastatals and other agencies, so that at the end of the day, 100% retention will be assured.
That particular story takes us to a second breather. We'll be back in a moment.
Back to the future. The future is simulate. Bet smarter. Win faster now. Be a winner. More at Bet.
At People Daily, we believe small actions lead to monumental changes. As we commit to a greener future, embrace simple steps, reduce, reuse, and recycle. It's time to go green. Kua Green. Switch off unused lights, opt for reusables over disposables, and support eco-friendly products. Each choice, no matter how small, makes a difference. Inspire others.